Hi everyone, I'm Avram Wise, welcome back to my channel, and in this video I'm going to show you how I make my sycamore and walnut dining room table. These sycamore boards I'm using are not very flat and are actually quite twisted, so I'm making this flattening jig so I can flatten them with my router. It's actually called a router jig, which did quite a good job of it. The only problem was I was using a 1/4 inch router. If I'd only had a 1/2 inch router, it would have taken so much quicker. I had to cut the two live edges off the board so I can butt them together. Most people would use a track saw or the table saw, but I decided to use the more unconventional route, and I used this angle iron nailed into the underside of the table so that you don't see any nail holes, and it worked out perfect. Yes! Check out my beard. My shaver ran out, so I had to leave a goatee. To connect the two boards together, I used this jig. It's something called a beadlock joint, where they're like dowels, they're like flat dowels, a bit similar to the Festool dominoes, but you do them manually. It worked quite well. Joined up nicely. Nice squeeze out. Now I just need to leave this to dry. Here you see me cutting the bark off the slabs with something called a draw knife. This is probably one of the most fun processes of working with live edge wood. The sounds that come out of it and just the finish afterwards is really satisfying. The draw knife leaves quite a rough finish, so I just used the grinder with a flap disc on it to smooth everything out, and left it feeling really nice. And it does a really fast job of it too. This is a really simple jig I made to make my dovetail keys or butterfly joints or whatever you want to call them. It's just a piece of wood with a 8-degree angle cut in it. So when I push the piece of wood through the blade, it gives it the same cut as the jig that I made to push through. So I used these butterfly keys because I had these massive crack at the bottom of the table, and the reason people use them is so that they, as a mechanical joint, so that the crack doesn't split any further. It holds the cracks together, and besides the point, they look pretty cool, so that's why I use them. I made these dovetail keys a lot thicker than I needed them to be. As you can see, they're sticking out quite far out the table, so I'm just using a hand plane so I can trim them, cut them flush with the table. For some reason when I glued it up, I think I used the wrong glue. I got this really dark glue line in between both boards. You see this line here. It's not a gap or anything, like you can't feel it, you can't even get your nail in it, but it's really annoying me, so I decided I'm going to inlay it with these strips of walnut, like this. Something like that. See how that goes. Yeah, I was going to use this thin strip, but I thought it looked way too thin, so what I'm going to do is I'm just going to use a wider piece. I've routed out a wider hole, like that. I'm going to use that piece that wide like that. Hopefully that will look better. I didn't want to use wood glue to stick these strips of walnut down to my table. Instead I decided to go with resin, epoxy resin, because that way even if I don't clamp it properly it'll still stick to the table, and it did a wonderful job. Even though I cut quite a tight fit, these strips went in really nicely, quite a snug fit. There were still a few holes left over, so I mixed some walnut into my resin and filled those gaps that way. This is actually my first time ever welding, and you'll see what a mess I make out of it, but it worked out well at the end and I was really proud of it. This is the first weld I did, horrendous. And after I got some tips and tricks of somebody, it's a bit better. These pieces you see me cutting now, these are to cap off the ends of the legs. They have an opened end to them and I want them to be nice and sealed, so you'll see what I mean in a minute anyway. Well, for someone who's just started welding like 2 days ago, I think my welds are improving. Whoops, that was not meant to happen. I was going to have both legs separately, one on either end of the table, but I think the pedestal look, both of them welded together in the middle, looks a lot better, like that. So I'm just going to weld them together now. So I've welded the legs together, it's worked out really well. It actually stabilises the table quite well. And I've added these brackets on. These are the threaded inserts I used so that I can bolt the table onto the legs onto the table, but I lost all the footage of me attaching the table to the legs, which is really annoying. I actually lost loads of footage, I'll show you in a minute as well. These walnut strips I put on the end of the table are strictly for decorative purposes. They add no strength or anything. One day I'm going to change it and I'm going to put some breadboard ends on it. But at the moment I can't work on this table in my workshop because it's just way too small and I've got so many other projects going at the minute, and shortly I'll be moving to a bigger place, so there'll be a video on that soon too. Here I'm just shaping that walnut strip so it's not a square chunky block. It actually has nice round curves to sort of match the rest of the table. I'm just using a grinder for this. It makes very dirty work, very dusty, but very fun at the same time. Like I said before, a whole load of footage went missing, mainly of me finishing off the table and putting it together in my dining room, but I'll show you in a few pictures of what the table came out to be, and thank you very much for watching, and if you've liked this video, please subscribe, like and subscribe, and if you have any questions or queries, please write them in the comment section below, and hopefully see you on the next one. Thank you.